This, yeah?
Call
Okay.
me Ryan. It's easier.
I'm Alicia. This is Rye. I'm from Sexy, Delicious, Healthy, and she is from This is Grub, and this is our second and middle elixirs webinar. Dos.
Dos Equis.
You're this little right now. Dos Equis. So we're doing our second webinar on elixirs today, and actually, let's start with why are we here, Rye?
Yeah, why are we here? So we came up with this idea for these to talk about elixirs because I love to drink my food. I like to drink things in general, the obvious things you'd like to drink, and of course we have the original elixir here, water. It's hot in North Carolina. It looks like it's kind of hot in Boston too.
Yeah, it's sweaty. It is very sweaty right now.
Sticky, right? So liquids are incredibly important for our body. And for me, and my health journey and my journey with my digestion, I realized early on that drinking my liquids, drinking my medicine, so to speak, my remedies, was a really effective way to get the nourishment and the healing properties from food without my body having to work too hard. So I love liquids, yeah, and I make potions and elixirs all the time. And last time we talked about herbs that you can infuse, and we talked about ginger and turmeric and using roots, and had a lot of fun. And this time we're sort of changing it up.
Oh, before we do that, I'm going to grab some water, and I want to show you something.
Oh, let me see.
All right. So last time we made stinging nettle elixir, remember? Yep. And so this is actually a big thing of water that's in my fridge, but I took some of the ice cubes that you taught us to make, and I put it in here, and it melted because it's so goddamn hot. But
awesome. Nice.
Okay.
So my quick question, how has your body been feeling with stinging nettles in it and ginger and turmeric infusions for the last month? You've been telling me you've been drinking these. What have you noticed?
I love it. It feels really good. It feels... well, first of all, I think that they're delicious, so that's really helpful for me. I really like flavor, and the stinging nettle has this really wonderful flavor. I love it personally, and the ginger and turmeric. I have Lyme disease, and I think because of my huge lifestyle change, which is how this started. That's how we're here, but I think definitely it is aiding in that anti-inflammatory world, right? You notice like less. Sometimes I have this like tension in my hands, and I notice a lot of less of that. So awesome.
Amazing, amazing. I love hearing that, and I'm so glad you mentioned deliciousness too, because we don't believe in my business. I have a partner, and we have very strong philosophy around food, and we really believe in joy and having joy around food. And I know you and the ladies at Sexy, Delicious, Healthy feel the same way. We should be choking down stuff that we hate. There's just too many things that are good for us to be depriving ourselves of that joy that food can give us. So awesome.
Yeah, that's where it's healthy is the last thing, right? Sexy's first. Okay, so what are we here to talk about today? And then I want to know, we're going to go deeper into it, but what is our topic today?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is actually one of my favorite things in the entire world to talk about, so I may start to geek out a little bit as we get going. Keep me on track if you need to. We are talking about bone broth. And if you're watching today, you probably have heard this mentioned somewhere. You've probably seen it show up on a blog you read. You probably heard a friend say that they're drinking bone broth. And you might have said, why the heck are we drinking anything with the word bone in it, right? So the idea of a bone broth is trendy, but it's certainly not a new idea. This is an age-old, timeless elixir that has been around forever. Every single culture has a broth, right? There's miso soup. There's chicken soup, which is called Jewish penicillin for a reason. There's a South American proverb that says, a good broth will resurrect the dead. And they really believed that. And I kind of believe it too after experiencing bone broth for the past couple of years, and which is why I'm so geeked out on it. So it's a really powerful elixir, and I love the fact that it's been around forever and that we're using parts of the animal that today in modern society we think like, oh, it's a little weird, and I'm going to show you some weird parts tonight. But truly, it's sort of the most basic form of nourishment.
I love that part. I love the part that we're using the animal parts that for a long time now we've sort of just been throwing out, and that they used to use the entire animal, and now we're sort of utilizing that. And there are a lot of good reasons for that, and I'm super excited to get into them. And I wanted to know, speaking of trendy, if you heard about the bone broth place in the East Village of New York called Brodo.
I have. A lot of folks dropped that New York Times article onto my Facebook wall. And, you know, there are places online you can get broth. There's places in Connecticut when I was visiting my family, just little delis that had bone broth in plastic, like paper containers for sale.
Right.
And so, yes, you can buy bone broth, certainly, and it's out there, and, you know, you'll want to ask if they're preparing it in the way that we'll talk about tonight so that you are getting the medicinal benefits. But how cool is it that maybe one day drinking broth and elixirs and herbal infusions is going to be just as common as getting a cup of coffee at Starbucks?
I love it. I love it. I'm excited about it. We need a little food truck to, like, drive around Boston during lunchtime. I got my boo.
Yes.
Okay, so we know why we're here. We're talking about bone broth. We know now that it's a tradition, right? It's a traditional food, and we sort of did away with it a bit, and now it's a hot trend, and we think it's king of all trends right now because it is so valuable. And I think one of the things that we should talk about, and actually the most important, I know that a lot of people are interested in skin and hair and all these things, and we'll get to that, but it starts in our gut, right?
Yes. So the reason bone broth is trendy is not just because it's a trend. It's because our generation, truthfully, is not well, right? We're sitting here, you and I are, 36 years old. You've got Lyme's disease. I have celiac disease. And it's almost commonplace now. Yes, exactly. 30-something. It's almost commonplace to be having a conversation with a woman of our age and to sort of be swapping diseases and ailments.
Right.
And that is not okay. And that shouldn't be the way. And that's why I'm passionate about what I do. So we need bone broth because we're not well. And sort of Hippocrates said, all disease begins in the gut. Right? So talk about going way back to the beginning of medicine. The belief was that the gut was the root of all disease. And now we're finding in our modern research that this is absolutely true.
Mm-hmm.
This is some super compelling stuff going on, this field of research around gut health. The digestive system is absolutely fascinating. It's a system of the body that is our largest interface with the world. We have this very intimate connection with the world. Everything that we eat touches every part of it, touches every part of the inside of us. And when you take the digestive system out of the body, it actually continues to function on its own. It's basically its own nervous system. It's fascinating.
That's fascinating.
Isn't it? So there's books out here. There's a book called The Second Brain, and they're referring to the digestive system, and we'll get the connection to the brain later on in our webinar. But it's really, really cool to think that we can access this key part of ourselves in order to heal our bodies. So you'd say for someone like you with Lyme's disease, you know, it's like, well, why does digestion have anything to do with that? It has a lot to do with that. Mm-hmm. Digestion regulates our immunity, our digestive system, our small intestines, our large intestines, where our immune system is. It's where inflammation response happens from. It's sort of the magic system of the body that we can play with and tweak. And unfortunately, it is that way because of our modern American diet, because of stress, because of prolonged use of birth control and antibiotics. Right. The list goes on and on and on for the reason why our guts are kind of screwed up. But the bottom line is that if you want to take charge of your health, especially if you're a woman with autoimmune disease, if you have food intolerances, food allergies, inflammation in the body, arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, osteoarthritis, bone broth should be your go-to elixir.
Right. And if it's not happy, it's not going to absorb the nutrients that we need, right? It needs to be happy.
Exactly. So do you want to know, like, do you want one more minute on what's screwed up in the gut, or am I getting too dry?
Yeah. No, I do. Anybody else have anything to say? You girls are out there. We don't see you, but if you send in some questions or some comments, they actually pop up on our screen, and we can get back to you. So let us know if we're on track with what you guys want. I can see that. I'm getting a message right now, and I can see it. So let me know if you guys have any suggestions. I personally want to know why it's so screwed up.
Okay, so, and I'll give you like the 1 minute, super easy to understand version. So
Okay.
the reason one of the ways in which our gut is jacked up, pardon my French, but it is in the small intestines. So our small intestines are amazing because that is where we actually become who we are. That is where the saying, you are what you eat, is true.
Right.
Because in the small intestines, we break down all of the nutrients and everything that's awesome about the food that we're eating, and it's sent out into the body, into the cells to become us, which I think is just so neat. So when you're thinking about food coming up to your lips, you can sort of literally ask yourself, do I want to be this, right? Do I want this like on my butt, on my arm? Do I want it to be part of me? So we become us there. And how we do that is that there's these junctions, right? So imagine a screen door, actually. So there's holes in the screen door, and we want it that way. It's perfect that way. So fresh air can get in and out, but no bugs and gnats and creatures can get in and out. So the screen is doing its job. It's meant to be a little bit porous. The small intestine is meant to be porous. Those particles of food need to go out into the body. But what's happened because of the way our culture is and the food we've been eating is that it's like somebody took a ballpoint pen and started stabbing bigger holes in the screen. Right? Vandalism.
Okay.
So what starts to happen is that the junctions are bigger, and flies and gnats and bees and critters are able to leach out into the out of the digestive system and into the body. And what happens is, say you eat some gluten or some wheat or some dairy or some soy, you know, all of these things that people now have their laundry list of, here's what makes me feel sick, eggs, you know, name it, nuts. Everybody knows somebody at least who's got a food intolerance, a sensitivity, or an allergy, and this is where this is happening. So that protein leaches out, let's say that it's gluten, into the body, and the immune system says, holy crap, this does not belong here. What is this? Foreign invader, and it attaches an antigen to it, so it basically says, okay, remember this is something we attack. And so every time you're exposing your body with that, I had celiac disease, so it was probably under the surface for a long time, but then I ate gluten and ate gluten and ate gluten, and my immune system finally said, okay, I'm not just going to attack the gluten, I'm going to attack you. Sort of the root of autoimmunity for all of us out there with autoimmunity. And it's the root of inflammatory conditions and all sorts of stuff. So it can attack your guts like it does with me, with you. You know, the Lyme's is sort of underlying bacteria in your body and infection, attack your joints. With someone with a thyroid disease, their immune system starts to attack their own tissues of their thyroid. The list goes on and on and on and on. Psoriasis, you know, it's your skin. So we're all kind of having this crazy response to what's happening. And the key here truly is to sort of get some thread and mend up the screen door so that we're not having this reaction happen over and over.
Awesome. Okay, we got 2 questions during that.
Yay!
But they were like really good questions, and then one came and it disappeared on me, and then another came and disappeared on me, and then you were telling me all this awesome information, so I'm going to try to bring it back a little bit.
Go for it.
One was another person that has Lyme disease, and I'm so sorry that you have it because it blows. But you can take care of yourself, and it will really help. And this person was talking about how what actually has been affected for them the most has been their nervous system.
Wow.
Right, which I understand, and I think, and please send up the question again if you want. I didn't have a person's name on this one, but I think what they're saying too is that it has to do with their nervous system and how they're actually feeling and responding emotionally, and I get that, and they're wondering how bone broth will help with that. I know that we're going to talk about it a little bit later, but I don't know if there's something that you want to address right now with that.
I love about that question. First of all, the person writing in is in tune with their disease and with their body. So I think that's super key in healing. You've got to get educated, and you've got to listen to your body. That's huge. So they noticed that when they paid attention to their nervous system with certain things. Oh, she's typing it in again. Okay, maybe we can get the question this time.
So it's physically affecting her brain nervous system. Yeah.
Okay, so this is where we're going to talk about the connection between the gut and the brain in a little bit. We don't want to overwhelm you guys with so much of the sciencey stuff in the beginning. Please stay on the call, though, because 100% brain and nervous system function is tied into all of this. So quickly, our gut is now being referred to as the enteric nervous system. It's the second nervous system of the body. We have our central nervous system, and then we have our enteric nervous system. And what we're finding is that there are just as many signals, if not more, traveling from the gut to the brain than there are the brain to the gut.
Right.
So we're starting to see that the gut is almost our mothership here. Like, where do you feel it when you're nervous?
Yeah, you feel it there. I feel it down there.
Feel it in your gut, and that's not a random thing. So we will go into brain function, but I love this lady with the question about limes and her knowledge about herself. Stick around because I really believe bone broth can help you, even if it's just to take some of the inflammation down that's happening in your body.
Okay, and I want to just point out one other thing. This totally has nothing to do with our webinar, but if you're not taking oregano oil, essential oil baths right now, take them. I swear by them. Okay. Move on. So we know that we need to heal our gut, right? We know that we need to heal it. We know we need to sew up that screen door because we want to keep the bugs out and we want to let the fresh air in. And so, you know, we're here and we're saying, like, what the hell do we do? How is bone broth going to play a part in that? We don't even really know what that is yet. I mean, some of us like think, is it stock? Like, what is that? But how is it actually going to play a part in this? And what is it going to do? You know, it's going to repair. And so maybe you can tell us a little bit about how it might repair.
Awesome question. Okay. So this, you know, it's important. This is a really important thing to learn about, but truly this is part of what it takes to heal. And what I do with a lot of my clients, what I do with all of my clients, truthfully, is to help them understand the full spectrum of what needs to happen in order to heal your gut. Bone broth is a very important piece of that. But truthfully, there are a lot of things. Bone broth is kind of the rock star, though, which is why we're going to focus on it. So how does the bone broth heal the gut, I think was your question, yes?
Yeah, basically, I want to know exactly what it's going to do to heal it.
Awesome. So like any elixirs, and we talked about this a little bit last time, this is not a magic pill. So you need to consume this or any healing elixir regularly in order to get the benefits.
Right.
And we'll talk later about how to make this a part of your routine and how to make it a regular thing. But here's what's awesome about bone broth. There are some properties deep in the bones and the joints and sometimes other parts of animals that are incredibly healing, and they match properties in our bodies. We are animals. And this is a product from animals. So when we boil the bones, we are extracting all of this magic that's inherent in these clean animals, and we'll talk about sourcing clean bones. Just a couple of the properties. The first really well-known is the gelatin and collagen. They're sort of the same thing, or one comes from the other. But collagen, right? We all know what collagen is. It's what keeps things plump and youthful and glowy. And our bodies actually stop making collagen as we age, which is why we age, right? So bone broth is absolutely loaded with this gelatin. It's the gelatinous properties that can be anti-aging, can help with wrinkles, can help with cellulite, actually. And then two other properties I feel like it's important to point out. There's two amino acids, glycine and proline.
Right.
You don't have to know that, but it's another thing I really geek out on. And
I want to ask you a really quick question about that. And I don't know if this is important, but I know that proline and glycine are, quote, non-essential amino acids. And does that play a part in this and why they're important? And what does that mean?
You are super well read. I do not know anything about that.
So. Okay, all right. I'm gonna look into that then. I know that they like heal connective tissue and they have all these awesome things that they do, but they're special somehow. And okay, anyway,
they are special. Yeah, and that's just your knowledge of proteins coming through.
Right.
Amino acids. Those are the building blocks. The amino acids, they're the parts of protein. And some of them we make in our own body, and some of them we have to get from outside of us. So glycine and proline, yes, we have them in our body. We need more of them if we have a leaky gut. That's the term that's often used for those holes in the screen door, and it's right, that leaky gut we see being thrown around. It's another way to explain that. So the glycine and the proline are often called the healer and the sealer. And I don't know which is which, but I remember them because glycine and proline is like the glue. It is the glue that holds us together, literally, our connective tissue.
Right. That's what I read. That it's actually the connective tissue between all of the joints and everything, and that if you play sports and stuff like that, or if you have an injury, you need them to like rebuild that stuff, to heal, to keep us, to basically hold us together.
Yes, and people used to drink broth constantly. There were, old stoves were actually made with a big hole in the back, and it was sort of the broth pot down in the stove. Right. And you would throw the bits of, meat and bones and veggies in, and there would be broth going all the time at the base of your soups and to deglaze the vegetables. So we are meant to have this, and truly we've lost it. So yes, not just leaky gut, but sports injuries, any sort of inflammation. This is why it's fantastic for arthritis and connective tissue diseases.
That's awesome.
It really is, right?
Yeah, it's really awesome. I mean, I love that it really is just like sort of the stuff that's in between everything else, and like you said, it's the glue and what's sort of like holding all these things together, and that we can add to it, and that it's the collagen in our skin, it's what keeps it plump, and that we can add to it, and that we can actually, like you said, seal and heal the small intestine so that they now can absorb the right things and keep out the bad things. It's incredible. That's incredible.
And this isn't just, hey, you and I read a bunch of stuff on some blogs. This is now being very well researched and has been for several decades. If you're really into this, you'll want to pick up a Nourishing Traditions cookbook. And that's based on the work of Weston Price, and Sally Fallon wrote it, and that really gets into all the parts of animals and the gelatinous and healing properties in them.
Okay, so I want to say we did have another question from Tanya, and it came up a while ago, right after the other question, so I am not hooked into what that question is. I would love to have it back.
Tanya, write to us again.
Want to send it right now? This might be a good moment to send it in before we move on to the next thing. I hope that you're still listening. Oh, good. Question from Tanya. What are the most common ailments people have that bone broth can fix, heal, remedy the most quickly or easily?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I sped over it briefly, but I would say first and foremost, because it's my passion and focus and my situation, women with autoimmunity. If you have an autoimmune disease, you have leaky gut. There's no need to run a test. In order for your autoimmunity to express, you have to have a leaky gut situation going on. So women with autoimmunity, and there are over 100 autoimmune diseases. Google it. The list of autoimmune diseases is mind-blowing. Some people don't even know that what they've been diagnosed with is an autoimmune disease. So first thing is, if you've got any sort of diagnosis, you've got to get in there and do your research and read about it and understand it. That's first and foremost. If you want to empower yourself to heal your body, start understanding what's going on with it. So that's number one. Number two, anyone with a food sensitivity, a food intolerance, or a food allergy. 100%. And, some people say, well, I don't know if I have food allergies and intolerances. That's something I work with clients on very specifically. And, you can get blood tests done, or you can do something called take out the common triggers and see what happens and then put them back in. It's called elimination provocation. I do that with clients too. And it's a really concrete way for your body to say, whoa, that cheese, not happening right now. Right now. So this stuff doesn't have to be forever if you can heal a leaky gut. I would say anyone with any inflammation in the body, any pain, the first thing, if I have a chronic pain client, the first thing we learn how to do is bone broth, right? All of that awesomeness we just talked about, the healing properties, the connective tissue. Yes, if you've had surgery on discs in your neck, you should be drinking bone broth.
Right.
And then, I think it's awesome for kids. Any of the kids out there who are struggling with, spectrum disorder stuff, there's this whole body of research that I'm super excited about is really supporting that this generation of kids has brought this to our awareness, that a vast majority of these kids have gut dysfunction that needs to be healed.
Yeah, I think that's great. Oh, question from Emily. Okay. Okay, great. So I wanted this question. What if you are a vegetarian or a vegan? And I think this is such a good question because I mean, you can even start with the nourishing traditions, right? That Weston A. Price was like searching the globe for a vegan tribe. That's all he wanted to find was a vegan tribe. He wanted to find a tribe that was living off of just vegetables and they had like perfect health. And he didn't find it. He didn't find it. Now, at the same time, I think that we do overconsume, and I just want to like spiel for like 1 second. You can take it back, but like we do overconsume meat, right? And we have to be really careful about what meat we eat. And meat is really expensive, especially if you're getting meat, right? That's a good quality meat that's grass-fed, that they roam free, that they're treated well, that they listen to music during the day, right? That they, no, but that's what I want to eat, right? I want to eat an animal that I know was treated well, and I want all the parts used, and I want their bones in my bone broth. But if, so, okay, so what they found, and you obviously can tell more about the actual compounds and stuff, but what they did find is that you do need to be taking in some sort of animal product, and this is, I think, again, king, right? Because it cuts down like our need for animal protein by 50%, and that's like research. So you can drink bone broth, you need animal protein like or animal, goodness, 15% less. It saves a ton of money because you don't have to eat as much, and it's going to offer you those chemicals and that K2 and all of that stuff that you need if you're living a vegetarian lifestyle.
Yep.
Oh, someone's saying thank you. Okay, go ahead.
Awesome. So you touched on points rather beautifully. I just wanted to emphasize to Emily and to Max now, who asked the same question. First of all, I have the utmost respect for anyone who chooses not to eat, especially just out of like listening to their heart, right? So if you're making this decision from your heart, my business partner is a vegetarian. We've built an entire business on the idea that you do not have to. Let me just plug my computer in. You do not have to, we all respond to different things, right? There is a lot of compelling evidence, as Alicia has said, that, consuming some animal proteins can be very beneficial from that sort of building block standpoint. That's not to say that I don't know people who are vegetarian and vegan and who don't feel awesome. Right. I think key is to really, really, really listen to your body. I think the danger with a food label is when you are so dogmatic about it, like I am vegan or I am paleo, to the point where your body's breaking down, you don't feel well, and you refuse to sort of break out of the dogma. So not that any of you are doing it, but the whole philosophy here that Alicia and I both ascribe to is listening to your body.
Oh, yeah. And the bio-individuality, right? I mean, I think that's the term, is that you really have to listen to your body and what you need. And I do know that some people do look back towards where their ancestors came from and what they were eating, and sort of that's the nourishing tradition stuff as well, and trying to see like where that came from as well. And
absolutely. And the key here, I think what they may be asking too is, what do I drink that's going to have the same effect as the bone broth?
Oh, good. Okay.
Asking like, what's the vegan version of this? What's the tempeh to your grass-fed beef? And I feel very confident in saying that there actually isn't an exact way to duplicate this without animals. The properties that we're talking about here are in animals, and you can't make them from plants. That said, plants are freaking amazing. They are magical. We need them. They are alive. And if you're looking to heal the lining of the gut, there are some like slippery elm, marshmallow root, agar, a seaweed. Those three can have some of those coating and healing properties that my business partner is totally hell-bent on creating like a vegetarian bone broth with all of those compounds and some nettles.
Love it.
And turmeric. People keep saying how awesome my kitchen is. We want a tour. Tell us what you have in there.
Tell us what you have in there. Okay, you know what? Actually,
I will promise that on the third one. If you all come back for water kefir, I will clean my kitchen, not just hide the stuff, and I will give everyone a full tour if you come back to Elixirs 3, and I'll show you stuff in my pantry.
Love it. Okay, so I need to plug my computer in. That was a really good reminder. And then, so we're on that. While I plug in my computer, I would love for you to tell everyone, just sort of very quickly, you know, there's obviously a lot of lifestyle changes that we can make. Like we were just talking about trying to come up with this sort of vegetarian bone broth, and that there's marshmallow and agar and things that can seal and heal the gut. And there's lots of things that we can do. Obviously, we know that. And we can't talk about all of them here. So I know that you're a health coach. I am a life coach. I mostly work with mental health, but I'm always sort of gearing my clients into understanding that they really do have to make a lifestyle change, and that it's really not just about the way that we think, but it's about the way that we treat and nourish our bodies, and that's sort of how this project started. So if you want to talk just a little bit about what you do and what your program is while I plug in my computer.
Awesome.
And then we'll start making bone broth, okay?
Yeah, so hang out. We're going to stop talking so much, and we're going to start chopping and making broth in front of you, and then I have a finished broth I'm going to sample for you. But Alicia asked, what is it that I do as a health coach? So I'm trained at Duke University. Duke Integrative Medicine actually is an integrative health coach. And what that means is that I have learned how to help people make the behavioral changes around their health. So food specifically is my passion, but like Alicia said, we don't eat in a bubble. Like food is not one compartmentalized part of our lives, right? Food is attached to emotion, it's attached to memory, it's attached to family. It's an act of self-love. We talked about this the last webinar. My partner and I believe that eating well and nourishing yourself and taking the time to prepare yourself food and sit down and eat the food, be with the food without being with technology or all these other things is a really powerful act of self-love. And so that's sort of this common thread for both of us, and is a thread in my work with my clients. So yeah, lifestyle is huge. Sleep, I tell my clients, if you cannot manage stress, at least work to manage stress. It doesn't matter what you're doing with your food, you might as well eat a Big Mac every time you are freaking out. Literally. There's a protein called zonulin some sort of amino acid called zonulin that's released when you're gluten intolerant and you eat gluten, and it has a negative effect on the digestive system, on the small intestine. And when you are stressed, zonulin, that very same thing, is also released. So literally, you might as well eat the Big Mac. And stress management, oh my gosh, that's an entire like 6-month webinar, right, that we can talk about, and something we're all working on. But yeah,
hopefully do that one day.
Yeah.
Can we do that one day? I do want to say quickly, I know we're going to get to it later, but it keeps coming up. It just feels so right that we make 70% of our serotonin in our gut. 70%. And I don't know if you know, but serotonin and dopamine are neurotransmitters that really sort of help us feel good. Mm-hmm. And if you can imagine, a lot of people sort of are on antidepressants, and really it's just something that holds the serotonin in between the neurotransmitter, right in between where they suck up the, oh God, I can't remember the words right now, but anyway, they suck them up. And so basically an antidepressant is holding the serotonin within the synapses for a longer amount of time. And that's because really it's holding on to it because your body's not making enough. And we can do CBT, we can talk about the past, we can build relationship, we can use coping skills, but if our gut isn't making it, it's not there.
Not there. That's exactly right. And that's
not there.
That's the mental health connection, right? That's the part where somebody asked, what conditions, does bone broth help? Well, let's add to that list anxiety, depression, ADHD. Oh, yeah. Any OCD, like any sort of neurological mental health thing that you probably see a ton of, healing the gut is paramount. The gut and the brain are inherently connected. You have to heal the gut to get to the brain, which, how cool is that? We've been trying to figure out how to heal this for so long, and the answer is actually in our bodies.
It really is, yeah. And actually I did read a while ago, too, that the glycine, one of the healers and sealers, does promote relaxation.
Yes, actually, some people drink bone broth at night and say it helps them to sleep better. So let's add insomnia and sleeplessness to the list of conditions.
Insomnia. This list is getting pretty awesome and long. Okay, we had another question. Okay, and I think we can answer it while you get out the stuff, because we really should start making the bone broth. There's so much to talk about.
I know, it's crazy. That's why I said I can geek out on this, but I think we covered just a ton of the foundational stuff and hopefully have encouraged and convinced everyone out there why they want to add this to their regimen. So let's make it, and then let's talk about how to eat it, and then let's get to that question. She had a great one about, like, how in the world do I fit this in, right? I'm already doing so much. Is this easy? Here is my question. Here's my answer to you. Yes, this is very easy. If it was not easy, I would not do it. I really wouldn't. I am not Superwoman. I don't spend all day in the kitchen. I'm juggling a lot of things. I've got a kid. I've got a full-time business. And so, yes, it's easy, and we are going to make it in a crock pot tonight. Everybody should own a crock pot, I think, for a number of reasons. For sanity, if you're trying to eat a lot of good, real, clean foods every day. But one of these big boys, and I think this is, I don't know, an 8-quart or a 10-quart, one of these big guys is going to be your best friend if you want to make bone broth regularly. I pull this out every Sunday, and I make my pot of broth for the week. It's easy.
It's super easy. And I want to say the last Elixir webinar also, we did stuff that is really easy. It's just chopping some stuff, pouring hot water over it. And what we keep advertising, I think it's really important, is that this stuff is remarkably inexpensive.
That's so
remarkably inexpensive. We're not selling any like fancy schmancy $6, right, tiny little $6 like magic potion drink. This is really magic potion.
So I'm actually going to make broth that I'm going to say is free. And I'll tell you why, right? So I roasted a chicken this morning, and we picked the chicken clean. That's my husband's job. He's got to pick the chicken clean. And we shredded the meat and had chicken salad sandwiches for dinner because it's hot. And with avocado and lettuce and sprouts, you know, they were delicious. Yeah. And we saved the bones. So I'm going to go with, formerly I would have thrown these bones out and still cooked a chicken. So these bones to me are free, right? We're going with chicken broth tonight. I think it should be said you can make a beef broth, you can make a lamb broth. We'll talk about the bones. There's always a lot of questions about bones. But ingredient number 1 is the carcass.
Yay!
Of my chicken. So you start to get really comfortable with the bones and with the next ingredient I'm going to show you. And truthfully, 1 chicken carcass is like the bare minimum. You kind of need a good amount of bones. A lot of times I'll roast 2 chickens, or I'll roast a chicken every Sunday and then make a broth every 2 weeks with the 2 carcasses. So the more bones you have, the more gelatin, collagen, glycine, and proline you have.
Right. Right.
Okay, so I just added the bones of my chicken. You want 2 kinds of bones. With a chicken carcass, it's a carcass. If you're doing beef, don't just get nice, clean beef bones. By the way, your farmer, your local co-op, Whole Foods in the freezer section usually. Yes. Go to your butcher. There are bones. Nobody wants the bones. I started teaching bone broth classes in this town, and after about a year, I went to the same butcher counter and said, "Do you have bones back there?" And the butcher goes to me, "What is going on with the bones? Everybody keeps coming and buying bones. I've never seen anything like it." And so I was like, I'm teaching people about bones. I got so excited.
I love it.
It's getting more common to ask your butcher for bones. They don't look at you like you're crazy. And get some bones that have meat and joints. Joints are really important for the collagen and the gelatin. So meaty
knuckles.
Exactly. Knuckles and connective pieces. I don't even know what they are, but I just look at them to make sure they look jointy and to make sure there's actually some pieces of meat on them. Those bits of meat that are on them are going to really bring flavor to the broth.
Right. Yeah, I mean, when we did a bone broth for one of our recipe items. I did a matzo ball soup, and there's actually a video that you guys can watch on YouTube of us making the matzo ball soup, and I made it with bone broth. And in that one, there's marrow, there's oxtail, there's chicken feet. So it's really all of those parts, neck, backs.
Yeah, necks and backs. If you can ask your butcher for chicken necks and backs or turkey, any kind of poultry, Yes, ideally you are sourcing bones from clean animals. So we're talking grass-fed beef bones or organic chicken bones. But I want to say this. I think that using conventional is still better than not having any bone broth at all if you're working to heal your gut. So if what you get is a conventional chicken,
I have a question about that. Actually. So someone brought up to me that there's some research out there that's talking about lead.
Lead in bones?
I'm gonna write down that question I just got, and we can get back to that. But something about lead. And so what I did read is if you have clean bones, you don't really have to worry about that as much.
Yeah.
And another thing that I read, was that it's so helpful in the body detoxifying, the liver actually like filtering out the bad stuff, that you really don't have to worry about the lead. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm of the school of thought that I meet with so many people who get crippled and frozen and overwhelmed because they want to do the best and the right thing, and the finances aren't there or the time isn't there, and so they do nothing. And so in my world, my encouragement is, man, if you can buy if you're buying the conventional vegetable or no vegetable, buy the conventional vegetable. If you can do, if you can do the extra for the organic, awesome, and pick and choose. If you're like really sick, my dad and sister came home from Africa with malaria, and that was like, I flew up north and I went and bought the cleanest chickens and vegetables and everything to make them both a broth that I pumped them full with. That was certainly a time not to add any toxic anything to their body. So pick and choose, and do, over and over again, I say this to clients, do what you can when you can. Don't get stressed out by, every article you read is telling you something different. So, and truly, I think that a lot of the chemicals in animals are in the fat of the animal, and not necessarily the bone. So that's where I come from on it.
Okay, I love that. Awesome. Somebody did ask if you can use lobster for bone broth.
I know you can make a fish broth, and there is a recipe, I believe, in Nourishing Traditions from fish bones that is going to be a pungent smelling broth. I don't know about shellfish. I mean, you can use the shells from shrimp to make a stock. I'm not sure about the glycine and the proline and the collagen and the gelatin.
Okay.
I know if you're using fish heads and stuff, you are getting that, but I don't know about lobster. Somebody Google it. Give us an answer.
Yeah, let us know. Somebody out there, let us know.
All right, we're going to go to my favorite ingredient. Favorite to freak people out, right?
Yeah. Ew, I love it. Ew.
How are you?
Ew.
So, yeah, totally weird. These are chicken feet, right? There's like talons. This is where
weirder than you would think it's supposed to look like.
Yeah, this is where you see the numbers of people on the webinar start to like click off. All the vegans or vegetarians are clicking off right now. It is crazy. It gives you the finger.
Pick your nose with it.
It's so weird. So let me tell you, this is gross, like maybe the first time you do it. I was so freaked out. I put on gloves. I was gagging. I was so grossed out. And I did this years ago when I first started to really try and heal the body. And by the second or third time, it was like, oh, chicken feet. Yeah, you really do get used to this.
Yeah.
It's like holding the wing or the leg, right? It's just another part of the animal that used to be very commonplace. And why are we using chicken feet? Do you know?
Because of the collagen?
Yeah, the amount of collagen in this part of the animal is just exponentially more. I mean, it's their bendy little feet, right? Like it's all collagen.
And the nails? You want those.
Do you? Did you read that?
I did read that, and I read that it's better than Botox.
Cheaper than Botox. So, I mean, if you compare Botox needle in the face at what, $5,000 and a $4 pack of chicken feet that you just have to get used to, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, it's your cup of Bo.
Cup of Bo, I love that. So here's chicken feet. I'm going to add about 3. I get these at our Asian market I don't think they're from organic chickens. Sometimes I get them from a farm when they're available. I can order them from a farm. Talk to your farmer. Go to the farmer's market. If anybody sells chickens, there's some feet somewhere.
Awesome. I love it. Throw them in.
Feet in the broth.
I wanted to ask you really quickly, as you're moving. So we've got bones in there. We've got feet in there, right? Some people add seaweed. Do you do this?
I don't, but I think it's a great idea. I mean, adding seaweed even to when you're cooking beans and grains, it has positive benefits. I think it takes even the gassy stuff out of the beans and helps with absorbability and helps with digestion. So yeah, add some seaweed, some kombu.
Yeah, that's what it was, kombu.
Kombu is great.
Love it. Okay. So, are we going to do veggies in there?
Yeah, we're going to do veggies. So you don't have to do veggies, and I know you're kind of a purist. For those of you out there that want to keep this as simple as possible, that's it, bones and water, and then you'll skip to the last step, which will tell you at the end how to bring it up and cook it. So it can be that simple. I grew up having grandma's chicken soup, and my grandma made the good stuff with the veggies in it, so I'm going to do it grandma style. We're going super classic flavors, Italian, just carrot, celery, onion, garlic. So here's my other favorite part and why this is free. This is kind of an old onion from about 4 days ago that's kind of getting shriveled up in the fridge. Usually I keep a baggie in the freezer, one that says bones and one that says vegetables. And if there's any veggie scraps and bone scraps throughout the 2 weeks or week between making the broth, they are collected in the freezer. So the ends of your celery, the ends of your carrots, the stuff you don't eat but is perfect for broth, don't throw that away. We're talking about a zero expense experience here if you're saving your veggie scraps.
I love it. Okay, okay, hold on, I'm reading this. So many people are far removed from where their food comes from. They prefer, it seems, to remain unaware or disconnected, and I didn't get to read the end. Shit.
So she said something about, do you believe this is, she said the chicken feet could be hard for some people. Totally. I get it. Let me just say, you don't have to have the chicken feet. You can just do bones. If you want to do 2 chicken carcasses, you're going to get glycine and proline and collagen and gelatin, no doubt. If you're all about making the most of this and getting the most of the collagen and gelatin, add some chicken feet.
Yeah. I think it really goes back to this using these feet might be a lot for many to handle. Do you agree that this could be hard for many because of this reason? Yeah, I mean, that's what we're saying. It could be, for sure. And I think it's really up to you about what you decide that you can handle and what you want to do. I always tell my clients, you get to ask yourself, you should ask yourself all the time, is this a time for me to challenge myself, or is this a time for me to nurture myself?
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I mean, that's really, you can't do either or all the time. Some mornings you have to wake up and you have to go, oh my God, I need to nurture myself today. But you can't do that every day either. Some days you have to wake up and you have to say, I'm going to challenge. This is going to be a challenge. I'm going to touch that chicken butt.
I love that. So yes, listening to yourself. And there's some weeks where I don't do this. None of this stuff is about perfection. This is about the journey. This is about doing things to nourish yourself and listening in and to your body to see how it's resonating. If it's not for you, it's not for you. But yeah, people are out of touch with their food, and that's a really awesome observation, whoever wrote that in.
It is a really awesome observation. I think it's really important, and I do think, like I said, I'm a meat eater, but I am of the school that we should know where our meat comes from, and that I would actually like to get more involved in the experience of where my meat comes from, and that bone broth helps me to cut down on my meat consumption.
It's a great source of protein. There are some times where I have broth as my protein, especially if I'm not super hungry or not feeling really well. Talk about affordable, good, clean protein source, right? So I'm adding the ends of celery, the middle of the celery, like the pieces you may not use.
I love this. This is great.
Good flavor there. I even had some ends of some green onions that I didn't use this week that were left over. I'm going to throw that in there. And of course, garlic. I don't think a broth is complete without it. I've got about 6 cloves here. It's from an older head of garlic, so they're getting a little mushy. I'm going to throw them in.
Love it.
And my other favorite ingredient, which I don't have on hand right now, I love to put ginger. And we geeked out on ginger last time, but I think ginger is such a great anti-inflammatory to add to this for flavor and for the health benefits. Go ahead.
You knew! Okay, so I am a purist. I make my bone broth just with the bones. And I do chicken and beef. I don't know, you know, I will do some marrow, some oxtail, some cat feet, my God, some chicken feet, whatever. I don't care what it is. There's some bones, throw it in there. So that I can then flavor it later.
I love that.
Yeah, and it says, how do you feel about pig's feet versus chicken's feet? Do you use pig's feet?
You know, I don't know why, but I don't think that pork is as beneficial an animal to use for this. My understanding is beef and chicken, and you know, with beef goes lamb and with chicken goes turkey, that those are really the most common to use. Nourishing Traditions may have a pork or a pig feet recipe. Yeah. And I am a pork lover. I love pork, but I'm not sure about pig's feet.
Okay. Somebody look it up and send it in. I would love to know if we can use pig's feet. But yeah, so I use bone and chicken when I make my bone broth. I do it super pure. And the reason is because in the morning when I'm going to drink my cup of bo, I like to say, okay, what's my flavor today? That's like part of the fun. I don't just like to drink it plain. So I will have like honey and cinnamon. I will have ginger and turmeric. I've had rosemary, pepper. You know, like I will wake up in the morning and I will throw a bunch of fresh herbs in there when I warm it up. And it's it's so awesome. It's part of the experience. I love it.
Love that. I think that's so creative. You've customized it to be what you want it to be. You can change it up every day. For my brain, that's a lot of work. I drink my broth in the morning. I call it my meat coffee. So I flavor it this way. Sometimes if I want to make a little more Asian-inspired broth, I can put lemongrass, star anise, ginger.
Yeah, I love that idea. I love that you call it your meat coffee. I'm so into these like little sayings. All right, so guys, are we boring you right now? Because we're gonna throw the stuff in, put some water in, we gotta let it sit. If you have any more questions right now, I know that we do have a seafood chowder in our cookbook. I know that they do make a stock with the lobster and the shrimp and all of this stuff. I don't know, however, the nutritional benefits of it. But that would be really cool to find out. Again, we also are using bone broth in both the cauliflower truffle bisque that we make and the matzo ball soup, and that will also be available. And your recipe for bone broth is going to definitely be in the cookbook as well.
Oh, awesome. Yay, yeah. I love it.
So they know how to make it.
Okay, so we've only got a few minutes. I'm going to so we've got vegetables and bones and feet and spices, if you want. The key now is to put cold water over them. Not hot, not warm. Go straight to water. And I've got it here in a pitcher. In the cold water, I've got one more ingredient actually that I forgot to mention that's important. You want to put a little bit of something acidic in the broth to help draw out the minerals from the bones, all that calcium and magnesium that's in there. So a splash of apple cider vinegar, a big squeeze of lemon. That acid is important for the sort of sciencey part of pulling the minerals from the bones. And then you let that sit. Don't turn it on yet. Just keep the cold water in it and let it sit for anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour. For me, it's however long I walk away and do something and come back and say, oh, bone broth, I got to turn that on.
Okay, so this means, ladies, we're going to be on for like at least 20 more minutes, probably definitely 20. In that time, we can go over practical applications, a couple other things. We have a couple of things to talk about, a lot of questions, and then at the very end, you're going to actually show us the beginning process because it's really important, correct?
Yeah, we'll turn it on, we'll get it up. I'll show you how to do that after it soaks. And then I have a cup of broth from my batch last week. I've got it heating on the stove right now. I'll show you how I drink it in the morning.
Okay, love it. So I have a question for you really quick. I think that maybe we need a little dance break. All right, but what about wine? Instead of you don't have apple cider vinegar in the house, you don't have lemon. Can you use a little white wine?
Yeah, wine is acidic. I don't see why not, and I do think the alcohol would cook off in the broth. Sure, that's creative. Why not? And as far as dance breaks go, I have held entire group sessions where I force everyone to do dance breaks because it's the best stress reliever on the planet, no matter how dorky you think it is. It's awesome.
Okay, so anybody have a question before we go and we throw on some Pixies Bone Machine for like 5 seconds and jump around?
Yeah.
Anyone? Are we ready for a little quick dance break?
Bring it on.
All right. Can you hear it? Is it loud enough?
I can't hear it. That was great, though.
A bone machine.
That's good.
Yeah, okay. If you guys aren't listening to the Pixies, they're old school. Louder, somebody said. Do you want me to put it back on?
I think everyone should play music in the kitchen when they cook. People come to me and they say they're miserable cooking in the kitchen, and as soon as I say, why is the music not on in there, it's like changes their whole experience.
Must be way louder. Okay, so we can put it on. We'll have another bone break in like another bone break. We'll have a bone machine break in like 1 more second. I'm totally fine with that. The Pixies have this wonderful song called Bone Machine, and when I'm making bone broth, I feel like a little witch doctor.
Yes, a witch.
I'm a witch. So I think it's really fun to sort of rock out. You know, you're like throwing your bones in there, and
that's so important.
Why am I such a dork?
You've got to have fun when you're cooking. If you're not having fun, what the hell is the point?
Okay, hold on. Ready? We're gonna do this.
All right, we're gonna do it really loud.
Really loud.
Is
that loud?
Oh, she hear it softer.
That loud? That loud? I don't know.
Your bones got a
Little machine. All right.
That was fun.
Oh yeah, you're the bone machine. You're the bone machine.
My husband is probably loving this. He loves the Pixies. See, now he thinks you're the coolest person ever, probably, because he played that song.
Are you talking to me?
Never mind, it wasn't important.
I forgot. Okay.
I know we're going to go over, and that's fine, but just so you know, I don't have to wait the full 20 minutes to show you all this. So if we can, get to some questions and talk about the other stuff that we wanted to talk about before we get to the sipping, it's cool. We can do it in whatever time you want.
Well, let's see. I think we have to hang out. There's no questions right now. So why don't you pull out your bone broth that you have made right now?
Let's do that. It doesn't have to sit the 20 minutes is what I'm telling you. So I can walk you through what happens next, and then we can finish with drinking the bone broth. Or
yeah, you want to walk through, or do you want to like drink the bone broth and have a little talk while we let it sit for you, so you can have so your bone broth can come out right for you?
Someone's saying yes. Walk us through.
You don't care if her bone broth comes out right for her?
Well, I'm not. But here's the thing: it's going to take an hour for that to get up to a boil. So let me just explain what has to happen in your crock pot. Yeah, I love that you wanted my broth to come out perfectly. Thank you. That's love. That's friendship. Okay. So we've got everything in the crock pot. We put the cold water in, and we put the acid in. The key here, you can put a pot on the stove, a big old stock pot, a lobster pot. That will work beautifully as well. You have to monitor it more on the stove. The crock pot gives you that ease. So now you're going to turn your crock pot on high. This is key. Everybody has a different crock pot. Every crock pot behaves totally differently. So you've got to just get to know yours. And the first couple times you make it, hang out with your crock pot. Hang out in the kitchen while it's doing this. Put it on the highest setting you can, because the idea is to get it to come up to a light boil.
Okay.
Don't want a crazy, aggressive boil that can actually break down some of the collagen, and we don't want that. So we're just going to put it up to high, and we're going to let it come to a boil. That kind of takes a while in a crock pot. There's a lot of cold water in there.
It does take a while, yeah.
It's going to take a while, and that's fine.
So someone said something about how it has to be the crock pot, the bones have to go until they're basically so soft they fall apart. They're like done, right?
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, it has to. So that's a totally different part. So basically, what Ryanna is saying is that it needs to sit in the water for 20 minutes to an hour before you even turn the heat on.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
and then you turn the heat on. She's showing us how to bring it up to a light boil, and then she's going to show us what to do there. But yeah, it then has to cook in your crock pot for how long, Rye?
So for chicken, 24 hours. You can do 12 and get some benefits, certainly, but 24 hours is where you get, whoever wrote that question, it's great, you already know, it's where you get the bones that literally when you pick them up and squeeze them, they're going to crumble. They're going to have nothing left in them. They've been completely, all of the awesomeness has been drawn out of them. So chicken, about 24 hours, and beef, you can go up to 48 hours before those bones start to break down. With beef bones, sometimes, too, you can add a couple of fresh new bones and veggies after you've strained your round of stock and boil them again until they start to break down.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So
I hope that makes sense, guys, if that's what you were asking.
Yeah, so the 20 minutes to an hour, that is not cook time. That is soak time. And that's really just for the minerals to be extracted. And some recipes will not tell you to do that. That's just the way I learned it. And then the cook time, bring it up to that boil, and then here's what's key. Whatever setting on your crock pot you need to go to in order for the broth to stay at a continuous simmer. So we don't want it boiling like this, and you don't want it kind of dead and just popping a little bit. You want a simmer like this. Like that. Like my fingers are the broth.
Do I have it right? Like this?
That's perfect.
A little simmer, not a pop.
And not a...
It's 9:01.
So, then you cook it for the 24 to 48 hours, depending on your broth.
Yep.
And then, I mean, it's going to fill your house with this gorgeous aroma. Some people feel like it's overpowering. Open a window if you need to. Put the crock pot in a back sun porch or whatever if it bothers you. I think it smells like the most awesome chicken soup ever. It's like the smell of home to me. And then you strain it. You let it cool when it's done. It's going to be hot as anything. Don't mess with it then. Let it cool. Some fat may come to the top. That's fine. You don't need to get rid of the fat. The fat actually, when you store it, acts as a sealant and a preservative and keeps it from molding. And then you would strain it. Strain it, and I put it in mason jars. I put it in mason jars, glass mason jars in my refrigerator. Can you drink the fat is a question. Yes, you can warm it up with the fat on it and drink it. Some people don't like that sort of coated feeling that the fat gives you. I am a big fan of the fat as far as it being satiating. Fat is what is filling, and this is sometimes what I'm having first thing in the morning and for breakfast. So here's my broth that I had heating in a pot from last week. It's good and hot. Now notice we didn't add salt when it was cooking. We don't salt it when it's cooking. You salt it afterwards.
Yeah, that's part of my when I flavor it.
So
Ryan, I will skim a little bit of fat throughout.
That's fine.
Just a tiny bit. Just take a little bit of the sludge off so that and I save it in mason jars as well. And so in the mason jar, you have like it's really gelatinous. And I don't know, I just feel like it's a lot clearer when I just take a little bit of fat off. But I agree, fat is satiating, and it's good fat, it's healthy fat, so it's really up to you. Someone just asked about drinking it, how much you drink a day.
Yeah. So I'm putting some fresh cilantro actually in this broth, inspired by and I'm actually squeezing a little bit of lime in it, and I may even cube avocado in it. That's sort of one of my, make it like a little soup. And the avocado gets kind of like soft and warm, and it's really, really good. So how much a day? So generally about a cup a day. And a cup doesn't mean like a huge ass mug. Like, drink a cup a day, like, you know, a good couple of ounces. Someone just asked a great question, actually, and it's a fact I forgot to share. Can you, or you're supposed to roast the beef bones ahead of time? Yes, 100%, absolutely. And the bone broth recipe on my website, thisisgrub.com. If you go to Google and just search bone broth and grub, bone broth grub on Google, you'll come up with my bone broth at grub blog post. It's going to give you the beef and the chicken recipes, everything we talked about tonight. And yes, whoever asked that, thank you. You do roast the beef bones first. It's an extra step with beef, which is one of the reasons that I
okay. So we need so I'm being told that we need to give some like real serious information really fast because it's 9.
Okay. So
link. What's your link?
So my website, and you won't be able to search for the bone broth link on the website, just in Google, but go to my website to sign up for our newsletter first thing. Thisisgrub.com.
Perfect.
ThisisGrub.com. That's my website. And then if you want the bone broth recipe, Google bone broth grub, and it's going to be the first thing that pops up for both of those recipes.
Awesome.
Drink a cup a day. It's going to heal and seal the lining of your gut. I actually feel a difference in my body on the days that I drink it. Everything just in my whole core feels coated and soothed and awesome and strong.
And it's filling, and it does, again, it will help you absorb protein. So you know that during the day, if you're really sort of trying to limit that you're really going to get the benefits. I just wanted to quickly say some things about Sexy Delicious Healthy as we're like wrapping up. So we are sexydelicioushealthy.com. We have a website. On our website, we have stories from women, beautiful stories. We collect them as often, sometimes as every single week. We also are putting out a cookbook. The cookbook is going to have nourishing foods in it, along with these stories. And what the project is really about is our relationship with food, changing that relationship, healing that relationship, taking responsibility for that relationship. And that's why we're doing these webinars and learning from someone amazing like Ryanna, who has so much to offer us about how to nourish our bodies the right way. And so Ryanna is a health coach. She works with people all the time on these many things. Like she said, often if someone has autoimmunity, they start right away. This is the first place that they start with bone broth. So yeah, as you want to change this relationship, yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you. One more thing. If you are feeling like this is sort of a little overwhelming and a little further, forward than where you are, we offer an online course called Real Food for Real Life. If you go to our website, This Is Grub, and click on the workshop tab, that's like 101, getting you off the food that's not serving you and helping you listen to your body and start eating the stuff that's going to nourish you and serve you and enjoy cooking and interacting with food.
Okay.
Everything you said about healing that relationship, so critically important, and starts to happen when you just get conscious and present in your food.
I agree. So we are wrapping up. I do want to let you know that I believe July 8th is when we come back for our Kefir webinar.
Yeah.
Weird.
Water kefir. It's like healthy soda. 98% of people absolutely love it. That's one that's such an easy sell, way different from chicken feet. You'll love it.
Absolutely. And also, I think that very soon Sexy Delicious Healthy is going to be sort of looking to you guys to start some fundraising so that we can really get our book published. And we're hoping that you take part in that. I think we'll probably do some kind of a Kickstarter or something like that, and we're hoping to do a cocktail fundraiser this summer and have some fun and actually hang out. So we can continue this. We want to do some outreach and continue to offer free webinars. I totally love you. Thank you so much for coming on.
I love you too. I see your heart, and it is beautiful, and I love doing this. Next time we'll take a tour of my kitchen.
Yes!
There's
so much information for bone broth. Fucking drink it.
Drink it. And go to my website. If you have questions, go to my website and submit a question. I'll answer it personally.
All right, and send your stories about your relationship with food today to sexydelicioushealthy.com.
Yay to bone broth.
Yay to Rye. Thank you so much. This is amazing of you.
You're amazing. Thank you, Alicia.
Call me.